Yeah, we coming now.
Newfoundland Wrestling Review Podcast.
Welcome to the Newfoundland Wrestling Review Podcast. I'm Colin Frosty Farty, and this is Chad Biff Everard alongside me. We are the Newfoundland Wrestling Review, and this is the first episode of Newfoundland Wrestling Review Podcast.
The very first.
It is.
The much anticipated. Well,
it depends on who you're talking to.
Exactly.
Yeah, alright.
Exactly.
Okay, Biff, give us a rundown of what we're going to go through on this podcast and talk about some stuff that we can probably expect in the next several installments.
Well, basically, let's start from the top. Let's talk about the history of Newfoundland wrestling and, well, our history of Newfoundland wrestling, because honestly, it goes back a little deeper than when we got involved, but we got involved, say, around, I think it was 1998, Beaconsfield High School. We started out with the variety show during Spirit Week and got actual NCW wrestling at our school, something that was pretty unheard of, and honestly pretty unheard of after that. NCW wrestlers came in, set up the ring in our gym, let us perform a full wrestling show that night. And, well, they trained us too, didn't they?
Well, they definitely didn't train me, but,
No.
Well, I guess you were involved. I missed the first couple of years of... we ended up doing some ridiculous wrestling show on the stage at our variety show when I was in grade 9, which I guess played off the big high school's show that had happened, I think it was about a week before.
Yep.
And I guess since I had been hanging out with yourself and other Newfoundland wrestling mainstays like Steve Burke and Justin Crickard, who are also still involved to this day, it kind of just rubbed off and we kind of went from there. So because of the NCW guys had come in to train, we started going
and train, we use that term very, very loosely because let's just say Disco Daddy and Justin Crickard, if you're out there listening, he can definitely attest to this. Definitely showed us some great moves and bumps on the stage as his pack of Rolly cigarettes fell out of his front pocket. But we, of course, the Bennett family, who are the hierarchy of the NCW and the founders and creators of NCW, helped us out a lot.
Pioneers of Newfoundland wrestling, if you will.
Yeah, and they definitely took us into their family, as it were, and that's when the actual connection between ourselves and Newfoundland wrestling really got started. And if you hear the term BHS boys, well, that's where it all came from.
Okay, so...
That was in 1998, but I mean, again, that just was the beginning, and that started a whole wave of shows that went on for the next 2 years, I'm pretty sure.
I was going to say, let's give a rundown or I guess a quick gloss over of everything that would happen then thereafter. So we started going to shows regularly in large groups. NCW were holding shows at Prince of Wales Arena at the time. At least that was where their main shows were. And they do it on a weekly basis. So
every week, imagine. Every week.
And it was sold out every week.
Well,
close to sold out. Well,
great numbers, honestly, for low promotion and low marketing and stuff like that. But
yeah, they had a huge fan base, and I guess the wrestling business in general in St. John's was good at that point.
It was during the big boom, so
you had CEW and NCW both on the go at the same time.
Yep.
So I guess before it was CEW and LCW, it actually was CEW and NCW, and they were the first real rivalry.
Well, even deep further back was All-Star Wrestling and all that stuff, but honestly, I'm not even gonna...
I was gonna say, you can go into a whole history lesson here on that, and maybe that's a separate podcast.
It could be. I mean, let's probably get some guests on in the future that can actually educate people on this, because I don't have the confidence to talk about that, because... I mean, we didn't go to those shows.
It's true.
So we'll leave it at that. No disrespect to those feds and promotions, but I honestly can't give them a fair assessment. So NCW, as you said, was a religious event for very young boys that wanted to get out on the weekend and go have some fun and check out some local live wrestling. And we did. At Prince of Wales Arena was my very first show. Probably a year or so after you guys really started the trend. I'll never forget it. It was 2001, probably around July, maybe August of 2001. And I can't remember exact matches of any sort, but the Bennetts were definitely involved. I'm pretty sure...
it was probably a hardcore match, and X might have been involved. It was probably Tax.
Really good that X was there, and he did the snap through a table on someone. Pyro, Johnny Chaos, all the greats.
All the greats.
The greats.
Okay, and we had gone to, I guess it was almost a year's worth of shows.
Yeah.
And then you got personally involved. Is that right?
I did. And around that time, myself and a good friend of mine at the time, Jeff Glynn, were actually really interested in maybe doing somewhat of a documentary. So we did some interviews and some footage of those shows, which was to a potential documentary, which never actually came to fruition, but, that's where it all started. But that eventually led into more friendly relationships and trust, and it actually led to a booking gig for myself.
I actually didn't know that's how it started. I didn't know there was a documentary on the go. I knew that yourself and Glenn had the friendship, and it kind of opened the door there. But I didn't know they were actually shooting footage and stuff. I'd like to actually get my hands on that and see where it went.
Oh my God, if I could actually get a hold of Jeff. Unfortunately, over the years, we've kind of drifted apart and stuff, but if I could actually get a hold of him and maybe feel him out, it could be in a box in his mother's basement somewhere. I don't know. But out there, John Mallard, if you're listening, Johnny Chaos, I'll never forget sitting on a fire escape outside the Prince of Wales Arena doing a very, very quick little shoot, but also a very interesting little shoot about how he got involved in wrestling. And, oh man, I'd love to see it actually right now. You're kind of bringing back some funny memories, so... That's where it started.
So, with the NCW stuff, give us a rundown of some of the stuff that you did while you were there. Like, what were your duties? What were, guess, some of the highlights of your NCW stay?
Jeez. It didn't last that long, honestly. It felt like it was a lot longer than it was, but basically it ran from probably September 2001 to, I don't know, even December. So it was only a couple of months. But in those couple of months, like you said, they were pretty much running shows on a weekly to a bi-weekly basis. And everything went through the Bennetts, obviously. They owned the Fed. They had final says on everything. So basically, I was kind of like the Vince Russo, if you will, to use that term very loosely. And they were the Vince McMahon. So my whole thing was just to generate more interesting, entertaining storylines. And one thing that I do remember is the Bruiser Bennett retirement angle. Do you remember that one? Where Bruiser played up the fact that he was kind of down and out in his luck, and he wasn't really, getting those title shots and stuff. So I'm pretty sure something came along the lines that he put his career on the line, and he actually lost. I don't remember to who. But anyway, through the jigs and reels, he retired and didn't show up for a couple of shows. It kind of sucked because Bruiser loved being on every single show and getting that heat. But we talked about it, and he loved the end product, which was the fact that it all built to this big show, which was called Extreme Halloween. Now, that was an idea of mine because I wanted to have a big show. Like, every week or every 2 weeks, they'd have regular, quote-unquote, house shows. But nothing was actually named like a show. Like, CEW had their monthly shows, Bad Intentions and yada, yada, yada. But NCW, just ran shows called NCW, Newfoundland Championship Wrestling.
NCW at Prince of Wales Arena. Come on out and see it.
Yeah.
And this was their pay-per-view.
And that was their big the climax to everything that was going on from the time that I started. So, anyway, it got to the fact that Executioner was the Extreme Champion. Love that belt, by the way. That was probably one of the greatest belts of all time.
And one of the greatest theme musics of all time.
Of course. He came out with an open challenge. And being Halloween, this clown came out and really hammed it up and played to the crowd and was throwing up balloons and confetti and yada yada yada. And he got in the ring and challenged X and pinned him and won. And who would it be? Of course, Bruiser Bennett rips off the clown mask or the clown's outfit, and The Beautiful People by Marilyn Manson played, and it was actually a pretty good pop. I have that tape still to this day, and I'd love to watch it again just to bring back some old memories. But that was one big thing that was a part of the booking at that time.
Well, you know what? Maybe in the next couple of weeks, if time is available, maybe we'll put it up on the Newfoundland Wrestling Review Facebook page. Maybe we'll take a clipping or a match or two and
for sure.
see what we can get up there and let everybody see, I guess, what had gone down and what the product was at that time.
Oh my God, completely different. Utterly completely different from what we see now. Very humble beginnings, as it were. Okay,
and one of the main things that I remember from that era, and I'll be incredibly honest, I don't remember a whole lot from that era. My memory
happened, so
my memory is awful. But there was an NCW CEW invasion angle.
There was.
Give us a rundown of what happened with that.
Let me think exactly. Again, I have a decent memory, but not the best. But I'm pretty sure it was an October event of CEW. Now, CEW usually ran on Friday nights at the COB Armory. At a booking meeting, and again, I'll use that term very loosely, down on Old Franklin Avenue in St. John's, down at the Bennett headquarters, we all got together from time to time just to go over ideas and whatnot, and this little idea popped in my head, being a 20-year-old super wrestling fan, that it would be really cool if, there was an invasion between NCW and CEW. So Rick, Ace, a few others threw it around, and I said, why don't you guys show up at their show? And from there, it kind of, mushroomed, and I'm sure other people threw in ideas. I can't solely take the full credit for it. Not that I want to anyway. But CEW had this battle royal going on, and the plan was that NCW were going to crash the doors and come in, and the crowd would go wild, as they would say. And anyway, it was very, very unprofessional looking back on it, and ridiculous, and I do regret it, honestly.
But I was at that show.
We were at that show.
Well, you were there for different reasons. You knew what was going on. I was the guy
in the grassy knoll.
I didn't know anything was going on, and I remember being at that show, and probably because you had said, "Oh, hey, there's a wrestling show tonight. Let's go to see the show."
And to my credit, and keeping kayfabe, I did not tell you.
No, I had no idea, but I do remember sitting in the stands and watching Rick and Bruiser and all the guys charge through the front doors, past the ticket takers, direct into the ring, and trade punches with guys who we've seen 100 times before. Your 187s, your too damn hype.
We'll get to that in a second. 187 was not there, but I'm pretty sure Gord was maybe in the ring. Someone as the Crypt Keeper perhaps was in the ring. Maybe Chris Payne as Diabolus, perhaps. Don perhaps might have been even in there. But the whole thing was the fact that it's funny thinking back on it. These guys were waiting outside in a van, and I had a cell phone. This is 2001, so there was no texting and shit to the extent it is now. But I had a cell phone. I'm pretty sure that was belonged to either Mike Barrington or Destructive Evely. You remember Destructive Evely?
You throw some people under the bus here now. This is
long gone. I don't give a shit, honestly. If these people, Mike Barrington, if you're out there listening, I'm sure you don't give a shit and you're laughing right now. But I was to make the call out to the van and give them the cue as the battle royal was going on, and the last 3, 4, 5 people were down. And I pulled the trigger, and they came charging in. But the thing is, it went down, and all I remember was Bruiser saying to people, "Go with it, go with it, go with it." And Gord got upset. A few other people got upset, obviously. And Nexus, you remember Nexus?
I do.
Female CEW, former CEW Women's Champion, came running after us with a bunch of other people as we ran out the door. I was getting out of Dodge, so I was running out the door. I'll never forget her grabbing my shoulder and pulling on my jacket so tight. Never met the girl in my life. I've pretty much met her actually after that. But I'll never forget her face as she ripped at me and was like, "Get back here!" And it's so ridiculous just talking back on it now. But yeah, so that was a fun in quotations.
But that would then eventually lead to a CEW NCW merger, didn't it? To kind of open the doors to.
Well, not really, kinda, but 2 years later they merged. But
there you go. See, it goes to show my memory there. I actually didn't realize it was that far apart.
Yeah. Well, there's only two guys, I'm pretty sure, as you look back on it, that did not know about that invasion, and that was Freddie Brophy, who was 187, and Steve White, who was actually Travis at the time in NCW. For whatever reasons, they didn't know because, I don't know, we don't really want to get into that now, but they weren't told about it, and that eventually led to their demise, which was probably in the spring of 2002.
After NCW, and so basically they merged. I guess I wasn't involved at that time, but you kind of took a step back after the blow off of one of the big angles and stuff, and we went back to being fans. Or was it the BHS Mount Pro Mafia thing that?
No, we can touch back on that actually, which was a fun little angle, and you'd never, ever, ever, ever see it to this day again. But fans versus fans was pretty much the angle, and the two groups of super fans, of course, as I mentioned earlier, was the BHS boys, which was Justin Crickard, Steve Burke,
Evan Nash, Brian Hocko, Andrew Northcott. There was Mike Byrne.
Mike Byrne got in there.
Terry Doyle.
All untrained, very small, young fans.
Or there were guys who actually would go on to be
on the other side.
Professional wrestlers, the Mount Pearl Mafia guys.
The Mount Pearl Mafia. Say that again?
The Mount Pearl Mafia.
That's right. And
you had Darren Lewis, who would eventually go on to be Darren Storm.
Yeah,
Rob would go on to be
Tommy Manson.
Ed Power would go on to be Max Power or Loco.
Breaking kayfabe there, buddy. A lot of people don't know that, I guess, but hey, whatever.
Oh, I thought he came out and said that he was Loco.
I don't know.
Well, him and Loco were friends then.
Yeah,
they were just really tight.
They were pretty tight. I think they were cousins. But anyway, obviously it produced 3, maybe even 4 really good wrestlers to this day.
I mean, off the top of my head, those are the guys that I remember. I know there were 6 or 7 of them when the angle actually happened, and I know there were a couple of them that kind of disappeared, I guess, like all the BHS guys did.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody from BHS went on to be an actual wrestler.
Well, Burke is a referee, and Justin Crickard is also a CEW referee right now.
To this day, yep. So, well, that was 14 years ago now?
Yeah, it wasn't.
So there you go.
It wasn't yesterday.
No. So, I mean, that all transitioned into the end of 2001, 2002. So, I kind of got out of the NCW booking role around... I think it was December, January, around there. And it's just personal differences. I didn't really want to keep up with just towing the Bennett line, so I kind of got out of it and wanted to be a fan more so. I didn't feel comfortable doing it anymore, so.
And you didn't really, I guess nobody was really involved then for the next several years, although wrestling was still going relatively strong in Newfoundland.
Oh, totally.
CEW, LC, or EWE would then come along, and there was PWA. We're going to have Mike Barrington on sometime in the future. Definitely. And
that goes out to anybody, honestly. Anyone we're mentioning here or not mentioning, if anyone wants to come on this podcast, locally or away, because I'm sure we can work out something with Skype or some kind of calls or anything at all.
Cowboy Mike Hughes, if you're in town. Andre Mayette, same thing.
Yeah, anyone at all. Love to have any of those guys on. Anyone locally for sure, and anyone off the island, definitely.
Especially talk about, I mean, you look at someone like...
There's so much history.
Dan Bjorkdahl or Cowboy Mike Hughes, who, I guess, helped lay the foundation of what LCW is now, or helped it grow to what it eventually became with a TV show.
Absolutely.
Gord Glenn, Vince Austin, who did the same thing with CEW, was an all-star wrestling guy, then a CEW guy.
NCW.
Oh, NCW, then CEW.
Widowmaker Vince Austin, of course.
And now he is, I believe, the RCW tag team champions with...
Possibly, but he is...
Andrew Hawk?
I'm not 100% sure. But I know for a fact that he does now have the CEW North Atlantic title again.
Okay, there you go.
So
CEW titles, regardless of whether they're in province or not, are still being defended on the mainland.
Definitely.
Because Vince has been up in Edmonton for
a number of years now. Since he left, I think it was maybe the end of 2011, beginning of 2012. So, yeah.
Cool, and then I guess
continue with the timeline anyway, just to keep it going.
Well, I don't remember timelines, so we talked about that.
But anyway, 2003, the summer 2003, Steve Clark, better known as Lance Romance in CEW, ventured out onto his own, and FTW is also in there, First Threat Wrestling in 2000. You're shaking your head like you.
I don't remember that at all.
No, Luke O'Brien, Too Damn Hype.
The names are all familiar. Too Damn I definitely am familiar with, but I don't. I guess
it was very short-lived. I mean, there's a lot of people out there probably listening. I hope there's people listening that would remember that, and I'm sure there's people out there that have no clue whatsoever that are also shaking their heads. But we'll touch back on that some other time. But that was around 2000. So 2003, WE started, and they were generally coming out of of course, Club Atomic downtown, which is I have no idea now because I don't go downtown.
It's dusk now, but that was another Steve Clark production, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, Steve is, you'd have to call him, I guess, one of the foundations of Newfoundland wrestling over that time span. Again, CEW guy, had some differences with ownership there, kind of broke off onto his own, and had a couple of different products, and then I guess EWE would eventually, close down or expand and separate.
Yeah, EWE kind of ran its course. Steve wasn't involved maybe a year or so, maybe a little bit more after that. And it kind of transitioned into maybe Freddie Brophy and Jerry O'Neill and those guys. And eventually it ended in 2005, I think October 2005.
Okay.
But, I mean, a lot of history there. They went from Atomic to St. Kevin's. They used to do some shows at St. Kevin's Parish Hall in Goulds and Calvert, I'm pretty sure, shows like that.
And I don't know which promotion it was. It was, I guess, where Dynamite Dylan Davis started. They did shows down at Junctions, was it?
I believe Dynamite may have been a referee in the PWA days. You know
what? Here, we'll figure it out. We'll have Chris on again sometime in the future.
I've spoken to him, and he's more than happy to come on. So we just got to work out some scheduling, and definitely have him on. So we'll talk about that.
All right, and I guess
PWA started basically in 2005, right after they kind of scooped up the from the ashes of the EWE and used the same little rinky-dinky ring, which was the old First Threat Wrestling ring, I'm pretty sure. So it went from First Threat to EWE to PWA.
And it was hard as rocks. It was like bumping on the deck.
Yep, absolutely.
It was about the same height as your deck, too.
Yeah, it was probably the same height as the deck, so not even. It was like jumping off your bed, but not as soft. Definitely not as soft.
And then, I guess,
PWA ran mostly shows in what?
Masonic Temple.
Masonic Temple, yep. And I like that venue.
Oh, the Masonic Temple was especially with the ring, because like I said, it was a smaller ring, it was a shorter ring, and with the lower posts, you didn't hit the ceiling when you jumped off, because there were a couple of different venues that were wrestled in that had the low ceiling, and you had to crouch down when you were on the top rope. It was really weird.
Well, I was doing NCW did a couple of times. Mary Queen of Peace.
Yes.
Which was ridiculously small, so... anyway... CEW, NCW merged 2003. They kept shows going till what? January 2007, I think it may have been. Darren Storm was the last.
I don't know. I moved away in 2006, so
it was kind of, I don't know. We're kind of mishmashing stuff there. If anyone's out there and wants to correct us, please be more than welcome.
Yeah, give them the Twitter handle so they can shoot us some corrections and stuff.
NL Wrestling RVW is on Twitter, and you can also check us out on Facebook. That's probably our most prominent online activity, so you can check us out on Facebook, Newfoundland Wrestling Review. We have over 542 likes.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
All right, so after that, LCW kind of came onto the picture shortly
LCW
thereafter.
started what? April, I think it was, 2009.
Started running shows downtown at Club 1, was it?
Junctions, I think, was their first show.
They did Junctions as well?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Actually, you know what we're forgetting, and God forgive us, RPW. RPW ran from, and you're shaking your head because you were away, so you really didn't experience that. Mike Barrington's first venture into owning and operating a promotion. And
Sorry, Mike.
Sorry about that, Mike, buddy. Not that we didn't really appreciate it, we just overlooked it there. But they ran from, 2008 to 2009, a solid 1 year. And they actually got in some names and stuff. I'm pretty sure Heavy Metal from Winnipeg area came in for some shows.
Okay, not Van Hammer.
No. Not Van Hammer. Heavy Metal.
Well, it's Heavy Metal Van Hammer in WCW, man.
Yeah.
Back in like 1994-ish, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. But anyway, they were pretty successful.
And when did the big names really start to come into, I guess, the Newfoundland scene? Because up until that point, it was all, for the most part, local guys, other than Sailor White, who I guess is a podcast all of his own as well. We could probably have everybody on and
give their 2 cents on
Sailor
just
talk about Sailor, because I know guys like Mike Barrington was really tight with him. All the Bennetts were tight with him at
definitely.
one point or another.
Gord was really, really tight with him and helped him pretty much start CEW. So I mean, like you said, that's a whole different podcast, and we'll probably do a little something. Not that we have a whole lot to say right now, but again, we'll let that we'll let that slide into another podcast.
Let everybody else do the talking for us.
There you go.
So, okay, and then LCW came along. Who were some of the bigger names that have been here before the last, say, year and a half, 2 years?
Oh, God.
Before LCW TV.
The first real big names to start with LCW, Vance Nevada, probably one of the best-known independent Canadian wrestlers and historians, came in for one of the first shows. I'm not sure if it was the first. Actually, I'm pretty sure it wasn't the first, but definitely the second or third. Then Cowboy Mike Hughes, who's actually been here pretty much for every other show except for maybe 1 or 2, came in. And then later on, guys like Raven, Al Snow, Cody Diener. Rhino started to come around 2011 and has continued almost up until last September. Rhino's been here pretty regularly. Colt Cabana, of course.
Has been here numerous times. Tyson
Dukes now.
He's a regular member of the LCW roster.
Yeah, I'd call him a regular right now. And
Phil Atlas.
Phil Atlas, of course. Congo Kong. Ted DiBiase, Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Southern Savior John Schuyler.
Throw it out to him, because let's put him over, because that guy's amazing.
I believe John's wrestling in China right now, also holds several belts across the states. I know he wrestles WrestleForce and stuff in the Carolinas.
Yeah,
he's going to be a big name. If you don't know him,
you think so?
Oh, he's definitely going to be a big name. If you don't know him, check him out. Dash Wilder is his former tag team partner. Dash is Stephen Walters wrestling in NXT right now.
That's right.
But that's getting away from Newfoundland wrestling a little bit too much.
We could talk forever about all the imports and stuff like that, but anyway.
So LCW has basically brought in dozens and dozens of people. They've kind of helped to elevate the Newfoundland wrestling scene to a level that it had never been before. They got sponsors. They got their TV show.
Huge. A TV show, like no one in...
An international TV show at that. It's on NTV, shown in dozens of countries across the world.
Saturday afternoons, 1:30. Check it out if you haven't seen it. Check it out on YouTube, on the LCW channel.
But while this is all going on, CEW also has a little bit of a resurgence. They do... actually, I thought it was one of the most ingenious things they did at the time, kind of jumping on the popularity of wrestling at the time. They actually called a press conference.
Yeah. Really, something unique. I've never ever seen a local wrestling promotion have a press conference.
Exactly, and like NTV and CBC, all the actual TV shows actually showed up.
Yeah.
And they talked about their show coming back and what they were going to do.
In full gimmick characters. I remember Buck Gotch there with his cabbage and putting over the characters and giving a little introduction of what they were going to present that night or the night after, and it was pretty cool. In 2011, December, I believe, December 8th, maybe 9th, I don't know exactly the date, but around there, they came back with, what was it called? Quest for Gold. They crowned a new North Atlantic champion. They had some great matches and stuff, and it was at the Majestic in downtown St. John's. One of my favorite venues of all time.
Actually, the Majestic was a great venue, and
it was
would
very
be,
short-lived.
It was, but yeah, and they are not there now, I guess, or nobody's there now for a plethora of different reasons.
Yeah, we won't get into that, but whatever.
But at the same time, they had great crowds while they were there.
Really great crowds. For bar shows especially, people were into it.
They expanded their show, and not to be left out, they also brought in a number of big names. They've had Sabu in, they've had Tommy Dreamer in multiple times.
Yep.
They've had Devon Dudley come in. Again, it's a lot of people see.
You really. I don't mean to cut you off there, but you really have to give these guys credit, and it's something that, funny enough, like back in the day, they had somewhat of a stigma of hardcore wrestling and untrained, unsafe, yada yada yada. But since this rebirth, there's been a huge difference in CEW, and I'm sure you can agree with me. Yeah,
that was just what I was going to get into. Yep. A lot of people saw CEW, and I guess it has the same letters, but a lot of people were seeing it as almost an ECW light.
Yeah.
But since it's been back, like I said, they've had their hardcore matches and stuff. There's been a little bit of blood, a little bit of
especially at the beginning. Old habits are hard to break.
I guess stiff stuff.
Yeah.
But since they have some of the best wrestling around, and
definitely
there's been guys go back and forth between.
I don't think they get enough credit, really.
No, they do. They do great shows.
As much as LCW has their TV and their big names and their big shows and their tours, CEW, they're doing it right too. And it really shows that they're totally different from what they were, and only good things can happen from there.
Well, and they're putting the effort in. Their shows are also doing really well attendance wise.
They are.
And they've been building towards certain stuff. I mean, we can. We're not going to go into specifics, but they got a big angle coming up now, or they started at their last show.
Okay. I didn't attend the last show, and I'm pretty sure you didn't either.
I didn't. I actually have the show on tape.
Yep.
I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
But I'm going to watch it, and I don't know, maybe we'll talk to one of the guys from CEW and see if we can pop some of that up on our Facebook page as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And obviously we'll get permission and stuff before we do that.
Oh,
and if we don't, maybe they will.
Yeah. And I'm sure they'll probably, maybe want to come on and talk about it. And that invitation is open to anyone from CEW. That goes out to Don Martini and Buck Gotch and Justin Locke.
Wild Thing, Tony King.
Anyone at all that wants to come on and shoot they're more than welcome to come out and
give it a go.
Give their 2 cents. So CEW, they're doing it right. LCW, they're also doing it right. And that brings us to present day. So
yeah, Newfoundland wrestling right now is probably in a state. In my opinion, it's definitely more popular than it's ever been.
Absolutely. You go to shows now compared to shows 10, 15 years ago, completely different. There's families out there. There's little kids out there dying to get autographs from these guys that we grew up with, which is kind of surreal to see. An Ed Power signing an autograph, or a Chris Dillon signing an autograph, or a Ryan or Buck Gotch signing an autograph. I'm proud of these guys. I really got to give these guys credit.
Taking pictures, they got their belts. They're selling merchandise, which is something that was unheard of in Newfoundland wrestling for years.
I'm pretty sure CW were selling shirts online back in the day and stuff, but no one at the shows actually had a vendor of a table set up with shirts and all that
now
stuff.
You're seeing stuff. You're seeing tapes. You're seeing
puzzles. You remember Mr. Fantastic Puzzles?
Puzzles, towels, shirts. You name it. They're wrestling is finally, I guess, making money.
Yeah, and they're doing it right, and they're looking at it on the business side as opposed to just getting out there and fighting and having a wrestling show for their buddies.
Yeah, so I guess with that, we're at about almost 35-ish minutes.
We don't want to bore anyone. This is going to be our first of hopefully many podcasts. So this is just going to be a quick and dirty podcast. A little introduction. Hi, I'm Biff. This is Frosty. And, you can get us on Twitter and Facebook all the time. We're going to throw up the at Newfoundland Wrestling RVW on Twitter and, of course, Facebook. And like I said, the invitation goes out to anybody who wants to come on within the local wrestling community. You can email me, Chad_Everard, that's EVERARD, at hotmail.com. And, or you can shoot us a message on the Facebook page itself. That's probably the best thing to do because it might go in my junk mail folder. And
or a direct message on Twitter. Either way, we'll get it.
Anything at all. Just get a hold of us and we'll be sure to work something out. Definitely.
And with that, I'm Frosty and he's Biff. Tune in next time on the Newfoundland Wrestling Review Podcast.
Newfoundland Wrestling Review Podcast.